if not still higher, by Isaac Leb Perez. And every morning during Slishos, the penitential days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Rebbe of Nemirov would vanish, disappear. He was not to be seen anywhere, not in shul, not in either of the two houses of prayer, not in any minyan, and certainly not at home. The house was constantly open. Everyone who pleased could go in and out. Of course, no one would rob the Rebbe, but there wasn't a living soul in the house. Where can the Rebbe be? Where should he be? In heaven, most likely. Doesn't a Rebbe have enough to do in the time between the high holidays? Jews, who evil befall them, are in need of a livelihood, peace, health, happy matches for their children. They want to be good and pious, and sins are so numerous, and Satan, with his 1,000 eyes, peers from one end of the world to the other. He sees all, spreads rumors, and tells tales. And who should be of service if not the Rebbe? That's what the people believed. However, once a Litvak came to town. He laughed in scorn. You know the Litvaks. They want to see for themselves. This Litvak points to a definite section of the Gemara, as if to gouge out our eyes. Even Moses himself could not get into heaven in his lifetime. Well, are you with the Litvak? Well, then where does the Rebbe go? I should worry, he answers, and shrugs his shoulders. And in the midst of the argument, there is a Litvak for you. He determines to find out for himself. That very evening, right after prayers, the Litvak steals into the Rebbe's room, creeps under the Rebbe's bed, and stretches out. He must spend the night there to see where the Rebbe disappears, what he does during slitchers. Another might have dozed off and slept. A Litvak loses no time. He memorized a whole portion of Gemara by heart. At dawn, he hears a knocking for Slishos prayers. The Rebbe has been awake for some time. The Litvak heard the Rebbe groan for at least an hour. He who has heard the Rebbe of Nemirov groan knows what sorrows for all Israel, what sufferings are contained in each groan. The soul would expire at the sound of those groans, but the heart of a Litvak is made of iron, so he listens and continues to lie there. The Rebbe, too, continues to rest. The Rebbe lord life to him in bed, and the Litvak under it. After a while, the Litvak hears the beds in the house begin to creak. As people leap out of them, he hears a murmur of talk, sounds of water poured on the fingernails, of doors opening and shutting. Later, people leave the house, and once more it turns quiet and dark. A ray of moonlight barely shines through the shutter. The Litvak confessed that when they remained alone with the Rebbe, he became terrified. His skin almost shrank for fright. The roots of his earlocks stabbed his temples like needles. No trifle this, alone in the house with the Rebbe at dawn of his Shlishah day. But a Litvak is a stubborn fellow. He trembled like a leaf and continued to lie there. Finally, the Rebbe, long life to him, gets up. He first does what is proper for Jews to do. Then he goes to the wardrobe and takes out a bundle. Peasant clothing, linen trousers, large boots, a fur coat, a great fur hat, and a broad, long leather belt studded with brass nails. The Rebbe puts them on. Out of the pocket of the fur coat dangles an end of thick rope, a peasant's robe. The Rebbe walks out, the Litvak after him. On his way, the Rebbe steps into the kitchen, stoops, and from under a bread takes an axe, sticks it into the belt, and leaves the house. The Litvak trembles, but does not stop following. A faint mid-holiday hush trembles over the quiet city.
Frequently a cry breaks forth from a minion at prayer, or an invalid's groan from some window. The Rebbe hurries home, keeping to the side of the street. In the shadows of the houses, he glides from one house to the next, the Litvak after him, and the Litvak becomes aware that his heartbeat merges with the beat of the Rebbe's heavy steps. But he continues and arrives on the outskirts of the town with the Rebbe. Beyond the town is a little wood. The Rebbe, long life to him, goes into the wood. He walks 30 or 40 paces and stops beside a small tree, and the Litvak is amazed and frightened as he sees the Rebbe remove the axe from his belt and begin to chop the tree down. He sees the Rebbe strike again and again. He hears the tree groan and snap. The little tree falls, and the Rebbe cuts it into logs, the logs into splinters. Then, with the rope from his pocket, he ties the splinters into a bundle of firewood, swings the bundle onto his shoulders, shoves the axe into the belt, and walks out of the wood and returns to the town. In a back alley, he stops at a poor, broken-down house and knocks at a small window. "Who is it?" A frightened voice calls from the house. The Litvak can tell that it is the voice of an old Jewess, of a sick Jewess. "I," the Rebbe answered, speaking in peasant speech. "Who is it?" the voice in the house asked again. And the Rebbe, again speaking in Little Russian, says, "Vasil." "What Vasil? And what do you want, Vasil?" "Firewood. I have firewood to serve you. Very cheap. Wood for next to nothing." And without waiting for an answer, he enters the house. The Litvak also steals in, and by the grey light of morning sees a shabby room with broken, poor household good. In bed lies a sick Jewess wrapped in rags. She speaks in a bitter tone. "Who can buy? With what shall I buy? Where do I have, a poor widow, the money?" "I will trust you," the disgusted peasant answers. "It comes to only 6 groschens." "And with what shall I pay you?" the poor woman groaned. "Foolish creature," the Rebbe says rebukingly. "Just think, you are a poor, thick woman, and I give you this shilly 6 groschens worth of wood, bundle of wood on trust. I have faith in your paying for it, and you who have such a mighty and great God have no faith in him. You do not trust him for 6 groschens. And who will kindle my fire?" the woman groans. "Do I have the strength to get up? And my son stayed over at work." Is a more livelihood, peace, health, matters forth of children. They want to be good and pious, and sins are so numerous, and Satan, with his 1,000 eyes, peers from one end of the world to the other. He sees all, spreads rumors, and tells tales. And who should be of service if not the Rebbe? That's what the people believe. However, once a Litvak came to town. He laughed in scorn. You know the Litvaks, they want to see for themselves. This Litvak points to a definite section of the Gemara, as if to gouge out her eyes. Even Moses himself could not get into heaven in his lifetime. Well, argue with the Litvak. Well, Litvak for you. He determines to find out for himself. That very evening, right after prayers, Litvak steals into the Rebbe's room, creeps under the Rebbe's bed, and stretches out. He must bend the knife there to see where the Rebbe disappears, what he does during slitshows. Another might have dozed off and slept, and Litvak loses no time. He memorized a whole portion of Gemara by heart. At dawn, he hears the knocking for Slishow's prayers. The Rebbe has been awake for some time. The Litvak heard the Rebbe groaning for at least an hour. He who has heard the Rebbe of Nemither groan knows what sorrows thrall Israel, what sufferings are contained in each groan. The soul would expire at the sound that was groaned, but the heart of a Litvak is made of iron. So he listens and continues to life. The Rebbe too continues to rest. The Rebbe, long life to him, in bed, and the Litvak under it. After a while, the Litvak hears the bell in the house begin to creak. As people leap out of them, he hears a murmur talk, causing water on the fingernails of doors opening and shutting. Later, people leave the house, and once more it turns quiet and dark. A ray of moonlight barely shines through the shutter. The Litvak confessed that when he remained alone with the Rebbe, he became terrified. His hair all shrank for fright. The roots of his earlocks stabbed his temples like needles. No trifle this, alone in the house with the Rebbe at dawn of his Shlisak day. But a Litvak is Listak fellow. He trembled like a leaf.